Okay, so I'm here to explain Jupiter in the second house. And second house represents the family we come from. Second house can represent our throat because that's a part of the body that it rules and represents. Taurus and Venus originally rules this house. I already believe I said that the second house represents wealth and the family that we came from. That's just about it for what the second house represents. Jupiter represents divine wisdom, divine knowledge. A good Jupiter in your chart can show if you're really inclined to astrology and spirituality and how well you'll be able to grasp and understand and teach those type of things. So when Jupiter goes into the second house, this person could have come from a large family because Jupiter represents expansion. And so, you could have had a lot of siblings, just have a big, huge family and household maybe in general. Jupiter in the second house, you might appear as if you could appear as though you're rich and have a lot of wealth, but that might be an illusion. That might not be true. The reason that you might just maybe come off to people is that you're just really wealthy or whatnot is because Jupiter represents like blessings, divine blessings and abundance and expansion. So you could just look like a real blessed and well-off person. You could just look good, carry yourself good, have both of your parents in your household. They come from a good background, good jobs. So people might just naturally assume, or you just give all the appearance that, you're rich, or you're just rich when you're really not. Probably you just come from a good background, good family and whatnot. Your appearance is just maintained and upkept. Someone with Jupiter in the second house, like I said, they could be very bad with handling and managing money. Because in my opinion, Jupiter isn't really that huge of a significator for money and abundance. That's more so Venus. Jupiter just represents blessings from God and stuff. So, through your good actions, through your good deeds, through your good karma, you might get blessed by some higher divinity with wealth. But that's sort of like a bonus. Jupiter is a guru. Jupiter is a sage. A monk, a sage. They don't really value and give that high of importance and significance to money and wealth in the material world. Of course, everybody needs money to function, but they don't really give too much of a high significance and importance to the wealth and whatnot. So they don't really thirst and get blinded by the Maya. Maya means illusion of the world and money and all that good stuff. So here, a Jupiter in the second house native, even though Jupiter represents intellect, it doesn't represent that word. It doesn't represent that materialistic, business-minded intellect. So here they could just frivolously spend money and don't really care about it, and they just have faith that maybe their religion or their ancestors or their higher divinity will provide for them the financial needs and gains that they need to be provided with. Some with Jupiter in the second house, like I said, you might always have just enough money after you pay your bills to just survive and make it to the next check. Jupiter might bless the house in that way. Jupiter in the second house might not make you rich, but Jupiter in the second house might just provide you just enough blessings and money and earnings to make it to survive, so you don't, be struggling and whatnot. Jupiter in the second house, these people, when they speak, they can just garner the attention of people because, a preacher, they speak righteously. A guru and sage is someone of importance and someone of a significance. So these type of people, they gain the respect and attention of those around them. And Jupiter is like this mature planet, this mature, authoritative, not like Saturn and Sun, not domineering, but they can be arrogant and speak righteous about the intellect that they have to provide. So these people, they just have this righteous way of speaking, this spiritual, righteous, divine way of speaking. Just when they speak in general, they can just garner the attention and respect of people in general. And that is just about it for what happens when Jupiter goes into the second house. Jupiter in the second house native, they might have an interest in making money and wealth through Jupiterian ways, which could represent astrology and mysticism and tarot, especially since Jupiter is aspect in the 8th house, because the opposite of the second house is the 8th house, which represents the occult. So really here you could see someone have an interest in wanting to make money through their knowledge, their divine, mystical, spiritual knowledge. Of course, you have to look at other houses and other places in the birth chart to see that, but this is a potential with Jupiter being in the second house. And that's all I have to say when Jupiter goes into the second house. Thanks for watching this video. Hope it give you some clarity and insight on Jupiter in the second house.